Turning now to the investigation into the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery, the News4Jax I-team is digging deeper into the background of one of the men charged with murder. Gregory McMichael is a retired investigator for the Brunswick District Attorney's Office. The I-team discovered for 8 years of his time as an investigator, he was not a certified law enforcement officer. Now the policy agency that accredits who suspended him is speaking exclusively with News4Jax I-team investigator Kelly Wiley about what this means. The executive director of Georgia Post says for 8 years of Greg McMichael's time here as chief investigator, he had as much authority to arrest someone as an average citizen. Multiple attorneys tell me the severity depends on how many cases he touched. One of the men seen in the bed of a truck is a former investigator for the Brunswick District Attorney's Office. Gregory McMichael has been the chief investigator under DA Jackie Johnson for more than 20 years. Personnel records from 2014 show for at least 8 years, McMichael was acting as an investigator with no arrest powers due to a lack of training. The executive director of Georgia's Peace Officer Standards and Training Council, Mike Ayers, says it means he couldn't apply for orders of arrest warrants, search warrants, or conduct arrests under the color of the law.
Essentially, that individual at that point in time has no more authority to exercise restraint or control over another individual than any other citizen would have.
Attorney Gene Nichols says there are big implications for this revelation.
So what I think we're going to see, if we haven't already seen it already, is all of these defendants who, if he was involved in their case, all are going to have the right to come back into court and say, wait a minute, I want my case looked at again because he was involved with it and he had no lawful authority to do what he was doing. A lot of it's going to depend upon how much involvement he had in each one of the cases.
A letter in McMichael's personnel records state the office learned McMichael was behind on his training hours in April of 2014. The memo states he knew he was behind on hours, but recently discovered he had not had arrest powers since 2006. It had been 8 years. A staff member wrote, until his arrest powers are restored, he has to hand over his badge, any identification cards identifying him as a deputy sheriff or district attorney's office investigator, and his department-issued firearm. After the revelation, McMichael went before the Georgia Post Council and was granted a waiver, allowing him to stay on as a full-time investigator. His boss, DA Jackie Johnson, spoke in front of the council on his behalf, writing in a letter that the situation had, quote, negatively impacted my office. Personnel files show McMichael for years was behind on governor-mandated training hours for de-escalation, community-oriented policing, and use of force.
Those particular classes are critically important, especially when you look at terms like situations like de-escalation. How do you keep a situation from getting out of hand, which is potentially what you're looking at specifically in this situation. Now, at that point in time, they were not acting as law enforcement officers, but had he been a law enforcement officer at that time, de-escalation training certainly speaks to that whole issue.
Another interesting aspect to this is how it happened. Greg McMichael in his personnel file said that he had not known that he was without these arrest powers for this period of time. When we spoke to the executive director, he said at that period of time that we're talking about, it wasn't an uncommon issue. Agencies and officers themselves, they had the responsibility of keeping track of their training. Since Georgia Post has created a new system where they do yearly audits and they send out notification to officers as soon as they are now suspended. Now, we have reached out to the District Attorney Johnson's office again about this issue. Specifically, we were wondering how many cases this could potentially impact. We have yet to hear back. Reporting in Brunswick, Kelly Wiley, Channel 4, the local station.
Okay, first off, let me give a huge shout out to DJ for sending me this link. If I had nothing to add to what you just heard and what I just heard for the first time, I would end the video right here. Do you realize how huge this is? This is I guess you could say a monumental moment for this case. Because not just this case, but for something that rarely ever happens in cases like these. And that is digging up the dirt, or should I say kicking up the dirt in the past transgressions of the accused. Because usually something like this will come out after the trial is over. You know how like they with George Zimmerman and how they tried to keep all of his past issues buried, and they made it seem like Trayvon Martin was the one that was on trial when it was really him. This is some very interesting information that is unfolding right before our eyes with this man. They said this man had no arrest powers since 2006. Mind you, he didn't retire from the department until 2019. So he had no arrest powers. He had no authority to put anybody under arrest. He's had to have his gun taken away and all types of stuff like that. And this also speaks to the volumes of a lot of these cops out here who are probably in the same boat as him based on how they act with civilians, especially those who are black. Like they said, this guy was supposed to have all types of trainings and he never had them. He wasn't certified, nothing. It's like he was just there. They said he had as much arrest power as the average citizen. So with that being said, it wouldn't surprise me why he acted the way he did when it came to Ahmaud Arbery. It's almost like he was living out a fantasy that he wasn't able to live out in real life while he was a cop. And Ahmaud Arbery just happened to be that one that day that he was able to live it out on, except it went and escalated into a more tragic situation. I hope that the people who are on Ahmaud Arbery's side of things are really taking all of this into consideration. This is some heavy evidence that they could use right here on him specifically. If they're going to bring up the past of Ahmaud Arbery, where what happened in his past has nothing to do with his death, then they can definitely bring up the past of Gregory McMichael. And don't stop there. Dig up some stuff on his son, Travis McMichael, too, because I noticed that they've been digging up a lot of stuff with Gregory McMichael, but let's not forget that it was Travis McMichael that pulled the trigger 3 times, might I add. So I know that there has to be some stuff out there as well on Travis McMichael. All they got to do is dig a little deep to find it. But like I said, this is very interesting because this kind of information usually comes out on the back burner after the case is done. And it's like, okay, why did you even bring that up? It's no point now. You can't use it. But like I said, it seemed like to me like this guy was just a menace the entire time. And they tried to cover it up. And by they, I'm talking about that mole rat looking bitch by the name of Jackie Johnson. Y'all can't tell me she does not look like something in the wilderness. Like I said, he is connected with so many people in that town. That's why he and his son were able to kind of skate on by for the period of time that they have until now. But it's all revealing itself. It's all coming to light right now. And I'm glad that it is. What good will it do? We shall see. It's too early to tell. It's way too early to tell. Like I said, there probably won't be a trial for this thing until either late this year or sometime next year. And because everything's going on with the virus, I don't know how that's going to work right now. But I'm sure they will find a way. But I'm liking this information is very vital. But you know what? There's a lot of Gregory McMichaels around the establishment. We've seen a few of them. It's just that their records haven't been exposed. Probably won't be. But I'm liking that they were able to dig all of this up because this is very heavy information. Like this is, I think I'm amazed because it's almost historic. Because like I said, we rarely see this happen. And who knows if it'll ever happen again. So I hope that they take full advantage of this and use it to their advantage so they can properly convict these 2 animals. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments and I'll talk to you in the next one.